National Park and in Chipata, and I just love Zambian traditional music.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. So maybe we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you what exactly jazz is. Well, no, a lot of us make an assumption. We don't know too much about it. So when we hear about jazz, we make an assumption it's 50s, 60s music from the U.S. What exactly is jazz?
Well, jazz is a music that came out of the United States. It's about 100 years old. It originated in New Orleans, then spread all across the country and around the world. It's a music where improvisation is very important. Each musician is supposed to express herself or himself, making up a solo and sounding like nobody else. They should sound like themselves.
Okay.
And there's a great deal of African content in jazz. You have the call and response patterns, you have percussive tones, you have lots of rhythms, sometimes rhythms on top of rhythms, and you have European elements and Latin American elements too. So it's a wonderful American mix. You know, it speaks to our cultural diversity as a nation.
Okay, and it's spread around the world now?
All around the world.
Uh-huh. You actually teach jazz. Tell us about that experience. Where do you garner your students? Where do you
Well, I
source?
teach not private lessons or always in the classroom. Usually I teach by talking to large groups and through my work at the National Museum, where I'm a curator, and so my classes are really oftentimes museum exhibitions, and that reaches people of all ages. So we're educating young people, middle-aged people, older people, and it's really a thrill to do that.
You have written this book, which, I was looking at the back cover, and I can tell you wrote it quite a while back, but you've listed some of the legends of jazz. Maybe you can enlighten us as to who they are. Duke Ellington, I believe,
Duke
is
Ellington.
one of them. Who are the other legends of jazz that we can pick out and say, these are the people to listen to if you really want to appreciate jazz?
Louis Armstrong. I would start with Louis Armstrong, who came from New Orleans, overcame incredible poverty, and was so determined to succeed. He worked very, very hard. He had a tremendous work ethic, and he drove himself to the very top. He became a world-famous artist and celebrity and entertainer. He even beat the Beatles off the record charts, and
He did that.
He did.
Whoa.
And you know, he was some of his best-known songs are "Hello, Dolly" and "What a Wonderful World," and lots of people remember those songs. Another great American jazz musician is Ella Fitzgerald. Such a terrific singer. They called her the First Lady of Song. And we could name Herbie Hancock, who's still living. There's Miles Davis, John Coltrane. There's just so many.
Are there any modern musicians that we can say slant towards jazz, or maybe is it going through an evolution process where it's gradually changing?
It's always changing. It's gone through so many rapid changes in its 100 years of history. Herbie Hancock is changing. He's not a young musician, but he's still young in mind and young at heart. There's young pianists like Jason Moran, who's bringing in a few elements of hip-hop and other kinds of music into jazz and making it very young and modern all over again. And there's just all these musicians.
Okay.
Was there, I think it would be helpful too for people, I was caught by the phrase that you mentioned when you talked about, is it an older person's music?
Yeah.
I mean, the impact that these people had on civil society in America. I think that's something that young people can still hear and get something out of today.
And that's interesting, Priscilla, how you tie this enjoyment of music, enjoyment of jazz to freedom. Tell us more, could you elaborate more on how?
Well, Dr. Hasse is the expert. But, I mean, these people were making music and telling their story at a time that was very difficult in the United States. And for those people who are fortunate enough to hear Dr. Hasse's presentation, they actually get a better understanding of the impact that the arts can have in conveying messages, and it reaches all ages, and I think that's just something that's really important.
On a personal front, how long have you been enjoying jazz?
Oh, I've been a jazz enthusiast ever since I grew up hearing my dad play it, you know, when he was even young. He got it from the military. He traveled all over the world, and I think probably a lot of Zambians. Who was it that visited Zambia a few years ago?
Well, both Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong. Duke Ellington performed in Lusaka and in the Copper Belt, and Louis Armstrong played in Livingston.
Now you see, this information that's probably missed with a lot of people, and I can tell you for a fact I didn't know that. And it's certainly enlightening. But how do you hope to get the message across? Is there any way that Zambians can maybe, continue this interaction with jazz artists and learn more and maybe, get into it professionally?
Well, that's it's a wonderful goal. I can say one of the things that we at the Smithsonian Institution, where I work, offer is a website with lots of different features. It's called smithsonianjazz.org. smithsonianjazz.org, and I think the State Department may have some resources as well.
And in fact, we will have this book at the American Center, and we will have it at the Livingston Library. We are donating it to different libraries around the country so that people can go and learn more and get a better sense of jazz and just explore.
Okay. So then, Priscilla, do we see more programs like this in future?
Oh, absolutely. We'll bring them every chance we get.
Are there other jazz artists that you might be targeting that you're hoping will visit Zambia as well?
Well, I don't know. We're always looking for new ideas. So we welcome. Come see us at the American Center. Call us at the U.S. Embassy. Any ideas, we're open.
Okay. So then, Dr. Hasse, following your visit here in Zambia, what are you hoping to take home with you? Not exactly in the physical sense, but in terms of your experience and what you've learned from Zambia.
How rich the culture is here, how rich the music is here, how warm and wonderful the people are, and what a universal or at least international language music is. It goes over boundaries of language, culture, religion, race. I mean, Louis Armstrong's smile could be understood in every language. His singing could be understood in every language. And music has that power. So I'd like to see more exchange between the U.S. and Zambia, at least in the area of music. And if I could add one thing, I would like to say that it seems to me jazz expresses some of the greatest ideals that the United States aspires to. Freedom, democracy, cultural diversity, innovation, individuality, and creative collaboration.
Okay.
And so it's a very powerful art form that can convey all those messages, represent all of those very admirable things.
What instrument? It's too bad you don't have an instrument on you, because I'd have asked you to play one just now. But what instrument is your favorite as you play jazz?
Piano. I'm a pianist. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, I wish we did have one right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Priscilla, would you have a last message to give our viewers?
Well, just that I do hope that I would love it if by the time I leave Zambia, there is cultural arts appreciation in the schools. I think it would do so much for young people to actually learn a little bit more, not just about American musicians, but about Zambian musicians, about Zambian arts, Zambian sculptures. I think it sort of sets a tone for somebody's life. It really opens the mind, and I think that's something that's just invaluable.
Absolutely. Priscilla and Dr. Hasse, we wish you all the best, and we thank you for according us time on Kwacha Good Morning Zambia.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Okay. Well, there you have it, Kwacha Good Morning Zambia viewers. We're hoping that you have a better appreciation of jazz as it relates to your culture and just for your listening pleasure in your homes. I was talking to Priscilla Hernandez, who's the Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy, and also Dr. John Hasse, who's a jazz artist and teacher on Kwacha Good Morning Zambia. I'm Chisanga Mumba. We'll get back to the program.
Well, that was Chisenga enjoying a bit of jazz with Dr. John